I'm the high guy from Bed-Stuy, putting the swelling on your eye. Your nose even, when I choke you, you stop breathing. When police come, I'm leaving. Peace and love.
We ain't gang, we ain't family, we ain't nothing, nigga. Niggas saying let it go, you bugging, nigga, I can't let it be. I know what my budget read, I read the budget every week. Then they tried to dangle money, they didn't think I'd leave. Niggas never pay the artists, but they love to pay the freaks. You ain't no architect, you just a nigga who know how to market death. You supposed to teach Coach and P about legacy, instead you teach him about treachery. When your main artist died, who did you call? Don't ever put Mase with bad boy artists who had hardship. Love don't steal, my nigga, change your name. I speak for every artist never spoke their mind. I speak for every artist left behind. When Mase left, was a nobody after me. Words from artists previously and currently known as Mase. Song Oracle 2, The Liberation of Mase and Betha, aka the Diddy Diss. But why on God's green earth would any artist want to diss P. Diddy, also known as Puff, Brother Love, or Sean Combs? On paper, he seems like a great guy. Worked his way from intern to his own record label, built it into a billion-dollar company, won Grammys, hosts Oscars, still remains a relevant figure in hip-hop at 52, and quote-unquote put on multiple black artists for almost 30 years. Yet you couldn't find any of those artists that has spoken well about Diddy consistently. And I don't mean the photo ops 20 years later when the artist is down bad and looking for a hand in some area. In fact, when former bad boy artists speak of Diddy in 2022, it's usually echoing the same sentiments Mase did on his new song. When it comes to labels that have done right by the artist, made honest money, and didn't take advantage of the young, ignorant, starving artists, Bad Boy Records is not one of the names first to mind. They were built to me as a machine that pumped out high-class, made-for-the-glamorous hip-hop mixed with that raw classic hip-hop sound and can't-miss personality as the mouthpiece and face of the brand. It was a great idea, and no matter what's said today, Bad Boy as a label was a success. That's never questioned. What is whose success was it? The artist or the overbearing label owner, producer, talent search, artist P. Diddy? Multiple Bad Boy artists of recent and old seem to think so. Bad Boy had the game on lock in the mid-90s to early 2000s, but today couldn't have worse credibility and died on a hill of what seems like betrayal, lies, unhappy artists, and money still owed. What happened to Bad Boy Records? How'd they begin so bright, then fall off and name drug through the mud still 30 years later? Let's talk about it. Salute to Javon Gathings for this request. It's your boy JC Stunted Growth Music. Let's get it. Take a minute to like, subscribe, and comment on who I should do next. Bad Boy Records was started by one of hip-hop's most noteworthy people, Sean Combs. Combs was born in Harlem and raised in Mount Vernon, New York, and went to a really good all-boys Catholic school considered one of the best in New York City. It could be where Combs gained an advantage much earlier than the artists he'd work with in the future, having studied things like law and business. His father, a friend of notorious drug kingpin Frank Lucas, was shot and killed sitting in his car when Sean was just 2 years old. It led to Combs acting out violently at home without a male figure to control or direct his anger, earning him the name Huff and Puff, or simply Puff. Fast forward, Puff was driven from the start and knew rap music was where he wanted to make his bones. With a singing and dancing background, along with a 2-year business study at Howard University, he jumped in early as an intern for Uptown Records. He moved up to A&R at the label, where he's credited for developing acts like Jodeci and Mary J. Blige. His ego began to grow thick, which led to him being fired by Andre Harrell. Later that year, Combs started his own Bad Boy label in 1993 and saw immediate success behind its first artist and single, Craig Mack and Flavor in Your Ear. Later, the notorious B.I.G. was signed, and Sean Combs and Bad Boy Records began their run as the hub of cool black music that sold millions and burned bright early on. Then, things came crashing down. Stunt number 1, the death of Biggie Smalls. The first reason I think Bad Boy didn't last and now is spoken about as they are today has a lot to do with the death of their flagship artist Biggie Smalls, aka the notorious B.I.G. When the head of anything falls, the entire body crumbles on itself, and that's exactly what happened in the case of Bad Boy. Yes, Sean Combs was the founder and owner of the brand, but Biggie was most certainly the future. Not only was he from the most popular place to be from as a hip-hop artist in the 90s, but he was respected in the streets and on wax as one of the top lyricists in the game. In a short time, Biggie Smalls became the face of East Coast hip-hop and Bad Boy with his polarizing look, style, confidence, and skills. Evidence to his skill, B.I.G. only released 2 albums while he was alive, yet you may not find a top 5 list without his name. With this respect, Bad Boy had a true face that outside artists wanted to work with and in-home artists could look up to and respect as the bar going forward as far as expectations. Because Biggie was so talented and successful early on, he became like the glue between a boss who I'm sure artists didn't like or agree with and a warm-hearted guy who was also an artist so could understand their frustrations. The glue was also the one parties and celebrations were centered around, again because of his success, which gave other artists a chance to be around the hottest in the game, and it grew the Bad Boy name. Unfortunately, Biggie was killed in 1997 as a casualty to the East Coast-West Coast rap beef, and things haven't been the same since. For one, till this day, many believe Sean Combs had something to do with Biggie's demise, and Mase even alludes to it on his new track, saying, "If they never found Big's killer, how could you live there?" As you know, B.I.G. was killed in LA, and Diddy has since been living there, owning multiple homes since forever. B.I.G. brought a style to Bad Boy, credibility on and off the mic, and a top horse in the race for the best in the game, label, artist, and coast. When he was killed March of 1997, Bad Boy hung by threads to find new blood. Like Mase also mentioned, Puff marketed B.I.G.'s death flawlessly and extended the life of Bad Boy for the time being. Stunt number 2, losing Mase. To a lesser extent, but just as crucial, losing Mase was also a huge blow for Bad Boy Records, as it took arguably their last flagship artist capable of going multi-platinum. No matter how you or I feel about Mase for seeming like one of the biggest hypocrites in the game, bouncing between secular enjoyments and church, you have to admit that Mase was a star. He has a line in Oracle 2 where he says, "When your main artist died, who did you call?" That would be Mase. After Big, Diddy was scrambling until Mase blew up. Actually, another credit to the importance of Biggie, he was the one that brought Mase to Sean Combs a year before B.I.G. died. Thereafter, Mase held the torch for the label as their new flagship and can even be credited for making Diddy as hot as he was. Yes, Puff was all in the videos with B.I.G., but not like with Mase. Mase couldn't do a video without Puff, and that helped catapult Diddy to the highest celebrity status. Mase wrote raps, hooks, and went crazy with album sales, selling over 7 million to date with his debut Harlem World. Keep in mind, he signed for $250,000 a year earlier. To have this guy in 2022 making diss songs about you stealing money from him is embarrassing. And Mase was right. After him, no one on Bad Boy ever sold close to those numbers again, and it was all but dead. Stunt number 3, bad business / the Bad Boy curse. And lastly, the stunt in Bad Boy's growth that's most prevalent and spoken on today is the bad business that allegedly took place at the label under Sean Combs' leadership, not to mention the legendary Bad Boy curse many assume happens whenever artists would sign to Bad Boy. Both have huge legs to stand on. Of all the artists Bad Boy housed, none today come out in defense of Sean Combs and his business practices. Even the ones that don't get involved, their silence speaks louder than anything. From Biggie to Craig Mack to Mase to G-Dep to Black Rob, Shine, The Band, and every other group ever signed to Bad Boy, none of them seem to have turned out as expected. Mase says in his Oracle too, not to compare him to artists who had hardship on Bad Boy, but Mase, you're one of the biggest faces of the curse. You faked being a preacher all to get away from Diddy. That's the ultimate hardship. You've used religion for decades now until you need money again, then you use hip-hop for whatever it could spare you.
You could have been a big star, my nigga. You fucked up, man.
You were a big star, man. Then you fucked it all up. Black Rob, who had the hardest song ever on Bad Boy, reportedly died broke with no support from Diddy. Loon and Shine turned to religion. Freddie P from The Band is ready to off himself, and Craig Mack went to a white man's farm looking for cleansing of the Bad Boy curse before he too died without feeling properly compensated. I think what happens all the time is artists at the beginning are thirsty. Diddy knew and used this to keep their publishing and pay them pennies, but that's legal business. He understood business and they didn't. Was he right for using his tricks on his own artists, or is it again just business? Either way, Bad Boy fell, never recovered, and the stain on its name will live on forever. Salute, much respect, but for these reasons, Bad Boy's growth was stunted. It's your boy JC, Stunted Growth Music, and I'm out.